Hi everyone! Welcome to Her Reigning Journey podcast, where our unique stories are realized, understood, and results in us living out our purpose with strength and dignity. Today's episode is part 1 of our discussion on insecurities. I'm joined today by the wonderful Nashelly Haywood, native of the land of many waters, Guyana. She's an optimistic person who's always trying to look at the brighter side of life. Nashelly is the manager of a fitness and event center and has been married for 13 years to a wonderful man of valor, Nashelly Haywood. Be enriched, be encouraged, be empowered by this story. I'm your host, Catherina Carbon. Good evening, Miss Nashelly. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right, thank you. And how are you doing?
I'm doing good, thank you. I'm doing well. First of all, thank you for being here with us today. We certainly appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to just sit and chit chat with us a bit and just have a good time, a good talk.
Well, thank you so much for the invitation.
We know that there are hidden matters of the heart that we sometimes tend to overlook or tend to hide under the rug. And one of those hidden matters of the heart that we're going to be speaking about tonight a bit is insecurities. We sometimes know that insecurities, people may be aware that they have them, as well as they may not be aware that they have them. So in your opinion, can you tell us what are insecurities?
Okay. Well, insecurities. When you're feeling insecure, this is when you feel as though you're not confident or secure in yourself, in your ability, or even in your relationship. So you may feel as though you're not good enough. Maybe you're not intelligent enough. Or sometimes you will feel as though you are not beautiful. At the ending of the day, Sister Cathy, insecurity means that you actually have a low self-esteem or you lack self-confidence. So that's basically what insecurity means. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. You touched on some really, really good points right there. I know that you mentioned relationships. You know, one thing I've realized is that insecurities sometimes can really tend to ruin healthy, long-lasting relationships.
Correct.
And I know you also mentioned, someone feeling inadequate or having a low self-esteem. Little do people know that the slightest daily task that they perform sometimes, these insecurities can actually hinder or mess up or intervene in those daily tasks that they have. So I'm really happy that you mentioned those points. You know what? Insecurities sometimes can help us feel helpless or inadequate.
That's true. That's so true. Yep.
Definitely. And there are characteristics that sometimes people tend to overlook and not realize that those characteristics actually mean that they're insecure. So what characteristics can determine if someone is insecure?
Okay. The thing is, there are so many different characteristics that can define whether or not someone is insecure. And I'll just name a few.
Sure.
For example, uneasiness, instability, anxiety, nervousness, extreme jealousy, and also control.
Whoa.
But at the ending of the day, all of those characteristics which I've just mentioned stemmed from the foundation of fear. Fear of not feeling good enough. Fear of your partner leaving you in a relationship. Fear of maybe losing your loved one through death. Or fear of maybe yourself dying. Also, it could be fear of rejection, or being judged, or how others may perceive you, or possibly you may fear that you might not live up to someone else's expectations. So these are the different kinds of fears that an insecure person may be dealing with But at the ending of the day, we should not allow fear to control us. Because if we allow fear to control us, then it can actually paralyze us and hinder us from truly maximizing our full potential. Or should I say, it can paralyze us and cause us not to or inhibit the fulfillment of God's purpose in our lives. Fear.
Wow, Sister
Yeah.
Nashelly, wow. And little do we know, a lot of the times we take fear for granted.
Yeah.
I believe that, a lot of times we tell our peers, our colleagues, don't have fear, don't be fearful. But fear is literally a deep rooted stem
Yes.
that branches out, and it causes so many different symptoms in our life that we don't even self-realize exist.
Yes, indeed.
Indeed. And as you mentioned those different characteristics, and you mentioned about not fulfilling your purpose.
Correct.
And that is so important and key, because our time here on earth is very short, believe it or not.
It is.
And
It is.
that is the reason why we are having these discussions, is to figure out, okay, what are the roots of certain issues that we see the symptoms for, that we can actually address, that would cause us to actually fulfill our purpose here on earth.
Yes.
Be able to live that full life that God intended for us to live.
Amen. Yeah.
And one of the things that you mentioned when I heard the term fear, I think about our own inner self speaking to us, that inner voice that is telling us, oh no, you can't do this, like, don't do this, don't you see what's gonna happen? So that inner voice that we have to be so cautious of too as well.
That is so true. And when I think about fear, or what I've heard recently, one person mentioned, I'm just going to put it in my own words.
Sure.
I don't know if you know Priscilla Scherer.
Oh, I love her.
Yeah,
I
me
love
too.
her.
So we both. Yes. So I'll put it in my own words. But what I understand, let's say, for example, you have to make a decision.
Correct.
So you're in between two decisions, A and B. And you are wondering whether to choose A or B. Now you're leaning on A because it's the easy way out, right? And you're leaning on A because it doesn't cause you to stretch yourself. It doesn't make you uncomfortable at all. So you're kind of gravitating towards A. But when you think about B, you're thinking, but you know what? If I head in B direction, this can truly take me to another level. But, oh no, I'm nervous. I'm fearful. So there is this barrier so fear is the barrier hindering you from stepping over, right?
Correct.
And what she mentioned that was so important is that if your decision depends on, or you're not deciding going in a different direction because you're fearful, more than likely, that's the direction in which God is leading you to go into.
Wow.
And the enemy is fully aware of this, and he is trying to hinder you because he knows that if only you can overcome that fear, if only you can overcome this barrier, then you are going to head in the direction of purpose fulfillment. And when I heard that, I'm like, oh my goodness, fear is our enemy.
Yes.
And
yes.
I just hate it. I mean, it's like when it comes, it just wants to overcome you, and then you just have to encourage yourself and know that, hey, the reason why I'm having this fear, I'm sure God is leading me into another level. I must overcome it in Jesus' name. Yeah.
Wow, that is so powerful, and that is so relevant. I think like the first thing I heard, or that came to mind when you mentioned the two scenarios of A and B, was the fact of A allowing you to stay in that comfort zone.
Very good.
And I think a lot of times we tend to stay in that comfort zone is because of the known factors.
Oh, yes.
It's because of the known factors that we say, hey, I have been here around this circle for XYZ years. I have become so comfortable. This is what I know. I'm not going to step out of the norm.
Correct.
the unknown, because it's like, what if? What if this?
Yes.
What if that?
Yes.
What if this? And sometimes, to our surprise, those what ifs actually do not exist.
Correct.
They do not exist. And it reminded me of a story when you mentioned that, of one person in the Bible. I think, I can't remember his name right now, that, Jesus had called him, and then he questioned God, and he was like, Lord, like, why me? Don't you see XYZ is the case? But little do we realize, God already knows where we are at. He knows exactly our composure. He knows what we are made up of, and he's not looking at that.
Correct.
You understand?
Correct.
And going back to your story, as you mentioned, it's because he knows that he made us with the capabilities.
Yes.
He knows that he made us with the abilities to go forward and stretch forward. So sometimes when he sees us sticking inside this little box, and he's like, no, my child, I call you for greater.
Correct.
Like, I created you for greater.
Yes.
And that is where, when he gave us the scriptures, it's because he knows that we will need him. I think you and I had this discussion where it was about the trust discussion. Seriously, you see how it all plays back in?
Yes.
And he was like, why would he tell you to trust him? And it was before time where he gave these words and it said to trust him. It's because he know that there are going to be some points in time where we would have to definitely use that trust.
Yes.
Correct. So it was so profound. That example that you gave a while ago, it's so profound and so powerful and so relevant. And the thing is, fear sabotages us.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it sabotages us. It causes us to not grow. It makes us feel small and less than.
Yes.
Indeed. Definitely, that is what fear does to us.
Indeed, that is so true. That's so true. But knowledge is powerful. And I really believe that fear is something that we all tend to deal with from one time or the other. And whether we accept it or admit it, we may pretend, but we all at one point struggles with fear, but do we allow it to control us, or do we overcome it so that we can head in the direction to fulfill the purpose which God has designed for us to fulfill? And another point that's coming to my mind is, if God is telling you to go in a different direction, God loves us. He has our best interest at heart.
So true.
He will never disappoint us. And with this knowledge, it's amazing that we still become fearful.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you talk about trust. Proverbs 3 verses 5, that's my favorite verse. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, which is the opposite of fear.
Correct.
And lean not unto your own understanding. Lean not unto your own understanding. And that is where fear comes in. We tend to lean on our own understanding, on our own rationalizing. Yeah.
That is so true.
Yeah.
And that's the reality of it, that's the reality of the basis of fear.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned that, insecurity for some does not always look like insecurity. So it means that some may not be aware that they're insecure with certain aspects of their lives. So does everyone deal with it? I know you just mentioned that, yes, believe it or not, everyone deals with it at some point in time. But how can someone who may be in denial, really come to the point of admitting, that, hey, I have a problem of fear. Like, I need to overcome this. Like, someone that's in denial, like, how can they come to the point of realizing that it's fear?
That it's fear, that they're dealing with the insecurity
of fear.
Well, I think, first of all, it's so important that we spend time and do self-evaluation and reflection. And when we can take that time to when we can get to that place and we dig deep behind that mask, because that person is operating in a manner that doesn't necessarily, that is different from what he or she's actually feeling. So we must dig or get deep behind that mask and try to identify the root of the problem. what is, the root of what is causing me to feel this way?
Yes.
Where did it all start?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And once we do that, that's the beginning process of getting the help and being able to overcome the insecurity. And of course, relying on Jesus, his power and ability to help us. So I believe that that's the step. That's how I would advise someone who's dealing with it.
Oh yeah, that is true. And you touch on 2 points that I'm just gonna ask you some brief questions on. One of it is the emotional mask. Like, we put on this front and this pretension for the world to accept us, or for us to not deal with our own selves. Because, believe it or not, to hear that, hey, I gotta deal with Cathy sometimes to work on this deep rooted thing is like, I don't want to do this. This is too much work. Like, no. But what are some of the emotional masks that you would mention that people tend to hide that insecurity behind of?
Okay, well, that's a good question. Sister Cathy, when I think about mask, the first thing that's coming to my mind is the physical mask that we are presently wearing to protect ourselves against COVID-19. It's the same way we as human beings wear emotional masks to protect or hide our true selves or feelings, because we fear that if persons really discover what is actually under that mask, they fear that they're going to be unloved. They fear that they're going to be rejected.
Yeah.
Or they fear as though they will probably be taken for granted.
Correct.
Yeah? So so as you've asked, what are some of these masks? Now, they're actually negative emotional masks, and they're also positive emotional masks.
Wow.
Let's consider some negative emotional masks. Now, there's the mask of control. Now, if you're controlling in your relationship, you might be, for example, this is just an example.
Yeah.
You might feel threatened if your partner spends time with another person and excludes you in that time that he's spending with that other person. And that person could probably be his family member, or possibly a female friend. Your whole intention, if you're controlling, is that you would like to isolate that person from his friends or family, because actually they make up his support system.
Yeah.
So you feel that by isolating him, then he will become weak, and you will better be able to control his behavioral pattern to get your way. So your partner would not be able to get advice from the other person, because he's isolated or he's distant from that person. And another thing you would do under control, when you're wearing a control mask, is that you may even cause your partner to feel guilty if he chooses to spend time with another person and does not include you. And you may also try to convince that your partner to maybe to cancel his plans. Yeah. And the whole idea of a controlling person is that they would like their partner to obey them, to do things their way. So they would have this mentality: it's either my way or the highway, And I believe one of the insecurities that someone might be dealing with if they're putting on a control mask is they may fear that if their partner gets close to another person, then they will give that person attention and may neglect them in the relationship. Another fear they may have is if their partner gets close to another person, then maybe the other person that they've gotten close to may offer advice that would jeopardize the relationship.
Yeah.
So that's the fear, right? That's the insecurity. Sorry, that's the insecurity.
Security.
So there is control, and there is also belittling others,
Yeah.
right? That's another negative emotional mask. Now, when you belittle others, you are basically trying to make others feel as though they are beneath you. And you may constantly seek their validation or their approval because you want to feel better about yourself. So the question is, when someone is belittling you, what insecurity are they dealing with? Guess what? They're belittling you, and the insecurity they're dealing with is that they do not feel as though they are good enough.
Wow.
So they feel as though if only they can belittle their partner or make them feel inadequate,
Yes.
then they will actually feel better about themselves. All right, and there's another negative emotional mask known as jealousy. Well, I don't know about you, but I believe that from time to time in a relationship, we may get slightly jealous.
It's
You know,
normal. It's normal.
It's normal, right?
I mean, you have feelings. I mean, hello. It's normal.
Correct. But what I'm referring to is extreme jealousy.
Yes. Yes.
When you come to that place whereby you're in a relationship and you are constantly trying to stalk your partner or always wanting to know his whereabouts, or you're always checking his phone or checking his emails, or probably you get extremely upset
Yeah.
if your partner just glances at another woman, right? So that's basically an insecurity of that's an insecurity you're dealing with,
Yeah.
and the mask that you're using to conceal it is jealousy. Now, what is the insecurity? The insecurity is you may fear that your partner will leave you for someone else that is more attractive. So that's the actual insecurity. And let me just talk a little bit about some positive emotional masks.
Definitely.
I believe that many of us put on this mask. You know?
Little do we know.
Little do we know. So little do we know, you know? A moment.
Sure.
The thing is, Sister Cathy,
Yeah.
when we put on a positive emotional mask, we are trying to give a false impression that everything is okay, when deep down inside, that is not the case.
Yeah.
So someone may ask us, how are you doing, Sister Cathy? And your response might be, oh, I'm perfect. I could not be better.
I'm blessed of the
I
Lord.
am blessed. I'm highly favored.
Yes.
Oh, everything is fine. When deep down inside, you're actually sad, you're frustrated, you're depressed, you're stressed out, you're hopeless, yet you conceal those feelings by putting on a positive emotional mask of happiness, joy,
Wow.
confidence,
Wow.
being jovial. So these are the different masks that we put on. And another positive emotional mask is busyness. There are
Interesting.
times, yeah. There are times, or have you noticed that there's some persons who seem to always be busy?
Always. Always.
It's like they fear
Yeah.
to actually take time to just relax, just still themselves and even meditate. You may want to know, what is the insecurity that that person could possibly be dealing with? Why are they always extremely busy? The insecurity is that person may fear that if they take that time to just be still, then whatever that they're dealing with, hurt, sadness, depression, discouragement,
Yes.
it may come to the surface and they don't want to actually confront it. So busyness distracts them from that. And what I would want to mention is that, like you asked me earlier, it's important. I've mentioned it earlier, but I just want to reiterate a bit.
Sure.
After covering all of those negative and positive emotional mass, some examples, again, for us to get the help we need and for us to begin that journey to overcome our insecurities, we need to dig deep. We have to dig deep. We have to go behind the mask. This is not about people anymore. This is about ourselves.
Exactly.
Trying to overcome. And once we dig deep and we go behind that mask, then we are able to identify the true insecurity and we can start our journey of the healing process. And it's only then we can truly enjoy the abundant life that God intends for us to enjoy. Only then.
Oh yeah, I agree, Sister Nashelly. And it's funny enough, we are the hardest people to deal with, I would say, for a lack of better words. I would say dealing with our own selves is the hardest thing for us to deal with. Like, it's always easy to point out in others.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, it's always easy to pinpoint and put a finger and say, yes, you have XYZ, you need to do XYZ. But the truth of the matter is, when you look at yourself, how self-aware are you? You know, and the thing is, if you really and truly love yourself enough, why aren't you taking that time to properly nurture yourself? And that is, I think, one of our greatest things is dealing with our own self.
Yeah.
Looking at ourselves in the mirror, having, the guts or the courage to say, you know what, I need help in this area. You know, a lot of times we rather let it go. We rather continue, as you mentioned, all those different emotions that they may have, the jealousy, the control, all these different things, the sadness, the depression. Sometimes we prefer to let that linger instead of actually dealing with it, because I think probably is the perception that we give to people, as you mentioned, that, okay, I am XYZ, therefore I have nothing to deal with because of who I am or who the world perceives you to be. And for me, it's like, why are we so caught up sometimes with the perception of the world when we are hurting so deeply on the inside?
Yeah, it's something else. And the thing is that this is how we have. This is like what we have learned, I should say. This is what we've learned. We were taught to basically to pretend. Just act as though everything is okay. You know? And we were not so much educated of the importance of truly loving ourselves and recognizing that this is not about pleasing others.
True.
This is about us being comfortable with who we are and enjoying us.
Agree.
Yeah?
Agree.
So that's really important.
No, I agree. I definitely agree. Like, while we are here, we want to be our best selves.
We want to be our best selves.
We want to be the best version of ourselves. A lot of times, especially when it comes to believers, sometimes we get so caught up in eternity.
Yeah.
I want to go and see Jesus. When I see him, all our pains and sorrows will be past, which is true, and that is one sweet day that's gonna come. But in the meantime, before that one sweet day actually comes, what are you doing to take care of yourself?
That's true.
You understand? While God was here on earth, while Jesus walked the face of this earth, he was doing healings. He was, setting people free, setting the captives free, doing all these different things. So why don't you think you also deserve it in this present day and age?
That's so true. That's profound.
Yeah. And as you mentioned, Sister Nashelly, on relationships. So we all know that you are happily married. So tell us about some of your personal experiences of dealing with insecurity.
Okay. Well, I know you've jumped on marriage and relationship, but I would love to. I don't mind. But I've also dealt with some insecurities in my childhood days
Sure.
and my early adult days. Yeah. Now, in Guyana, where I'm from, the two dominant races are Black and Indian.
Okay.
Right? Now, I grew up in a country area known as Essequibo.
Okay.
And in Essequibo, the dominant race was Indian. So I was surrounded with Indians in my neighborhood and also at school.
Yeah.
But for some strange reason, I did not like. And for some strange reason, I did not like my race.
Wow. Wow.
I did not like my race.
Yeah.
I did not like my hair texture. I preferred if I was Indian or mixed.
Wow.
In Guyana, we refer to mixed as dagla.
I haven't heard that name in a long.
But you're familiar with the term.
I am familiar with it.
All right. So, you know what I recall? I did not like my because I didn't like my hair texture, especially when I would wash my hair.
Yeah.
Or if it got wet.
Yeah.
My hair, it just shrunk, and it felt as though I had boycott.
Wow.
And how I hated that.
Wow.
You know. And I also remember putting on stockings. You know those pantyhose stockings?
Yeah, yeah.
You put it on and then you twist it. So I would, you know, of course I'm not going to go on the road, but in my own little time at home, I would put on the stockings and I would twist it, and then I would put on like some kind of hair accessory on it.
Yeah.
And I would just toss it from side to side.
I love it.
Pretending as though I had long hair.
Wow.
And that's just to show you that I really didn't like my hair. Anyways, as I got older, I became so excited when I discovered that I can actually change my hair texture. So I started pressing my hair.
Okay.
And over time, I guess you can guess what happened. It got
Damaged. Yeah.
Later, I started relaxing or straightening my hair. And then the same thing happened. The chemicals damaged my hair. And I was tired. I'm like, you know what? This is ridiculous. This is stressful.
Yeah.
I might as well go back to natural. So I started my hair journey, going back to natural. And what helped me was braiding my hair.
Nice.
So persons who would remember me in my teenage years or in my early adult years would recall me always having braids in my hair.
Okay.
But I always said to myself that the last resort for my hair would be to have locks. And guess what?
You have locks.
So you know, here is where I am right now.
Yes.
And to be quite honest with you, Sister Cathy, I feel as though this has really developed my confidence level where my hair is concerned.
Yeah.
I feel more secure about my hair now, and I'm so happy that I had the opportunity to make some changes.
Yes, yes.
So that's actually my hair experience, and then it was my skin color.
Wow.
Now, I always thought
Yeah.
that light-skinned persons are more beautiful.
Wow.
And me being dark-skinned, I felt as though I was not beautiful enough.
Yeah.
So I purchased this cream known as Fair and White.
You're right. Have you heard? I heard about that.
Well,
I heard about it.
oh my goodness. Well, I applied this cream on my face.
Wow.
And in a few days, I started getting fairer. I got so excited. Oh my goodness, this cream is exactly doing what it said it would do. But after some time, I realized that while my face was getting fair and white,
Yes.
the other parts of my body remained dark. Now, this fair and white cream was very costly.
Yes.
And it was just a little tube. So if I needed my entire body to get fair and white as well, it means that I would have to buy quite a lot of quite a lot of these tubes of cream and apply to my body.
Yeah.
You know, and that was a task that
I could
an
imagine.
expense that I was not prepared to take up. So I recall, just because I really didn't want persons to know I was bleaching my face, basically.
Yes.
I remember I could not just wear sleeveless, because then my hands will be visible. I had to wear so I had to wear long sleeve. I also had to wear long pants always. So I came to the point where I knew that, you know what, Nashelly, you just I was just hoping and praying I stopped using the cream.
Yes.
And guess what? I was looking forward for my normal complexion again. So talk about not knowing what you want in life. So you know what happened. So that's that.
Wow.
And then there was my weight.
Yes.
I had an issue with my weight.
Wow.
While I was growing up, I was very skinny. And I always had this desire to be thick, you know? So when I was attending university, I remember it was a Christmas time. And I made a pact with one of my friends. So this was around the Christmas, before the Christmas holidays. So I remember making a pact with her that, you know what? I am going to gain 10 pounds during this Christmas holiday. So I bought this appetite stimulant known as Proactin.
I heard about that too.
You heard about it?
For the slim girls, yes.
Girl, it opened up my appetite. And I remember cooking a lot.
Yes.
And all I did during those 2 weeks was I cooked, because I love cooking.
Yes.
And I ate. And I slept. Because
Perfect combination to gain weight.
Correct, right? Because I intended that I was going to gain this weight.
Yes.
Right? And after the 2 weeks, okay, I did not gain exactly 10 pounds, but you would not believe it. I was very close to 10 pounds.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. And I know. And I remember, oh my goodness, I felt so confident about myself because I put on jeans and I loved the way I was looking in my jeans.
Yeah.
And after a few years, I came to the realization that I kept gaining more weight.
Wow.
So I was like, oh my goodness. If I do not control this weight right now, then this weight will control me.
Yes.
And I really don't want to be fat. So from being on a journey of weight gaining, I was on a journey of weight
losing. Wow.
And one last insecurity that I would like to mention about that I've dealt with in my early childhood and young adult days is regarding my voice.
Okay.
Well, you know, when you're growing up, you mature.
Yes.
In different areas of your body. The thing is, Sister Kathy, it seems as though every part of my body was maturing, with the exception of my voice. I've heard persons mention to me, oh, your voice is so soft.
Yeah.
Your voice is squeaky. I can't, when I'm speaking at times, they will say, can you speak up? I can't hear you.
Yes.
And I just hated my voice. I even remember asking my mom at one point, Mom, why did you make me with this voice? Because her voice is much stronger and powerful.
It
you know?
is.
So I really feel that insecurity I had with my voice also affected me in secondary school in particular.
Wow.
To the point that I did not feel comfortable to actually be participative in a class, or because I was insecure about my voice. And I also did not want to, maybe give an opinion or make a comment.
Yeah.
And sometimes I was also laughed at because of my voice.
Wow.
So you can imagine how that affected me.
Exactly.
But there came a point in my life when I decided, I said, Nashelly, I spoke to myself.
Yes.
I said, you know what? This is your voice. And you are going to start loving your voice despite of what people say. I told myself, you are going to start projecting your voice and don't just speak so soft because of your insecurity. Speak louder.
Exactly.
Because what is important is that people understand what you're saying and you're explicit.
Correct.
All right?
Correct.
So that is exactly what I started doing. And this reminds me, before I mention that, what I realized is that as I started accepting my voice and appreciating my voice and loving my voice, other persons started complimenting my voice.
Wow.
Could you imagine?
Look at the turnaround.
Right? So I'm reminded of what Miles Monroe said. I think it was in his book, In the Pursuit of Purpose.
Okay.
He said that we are unique and perfectly built for our purpose.
Correct. So true.
And for us, there are no substitutes.
Wow.
It means that our voice, our race, our height, it all is perfectly built for our purpose.
Correct.
There is a serenity prayer. And the serenity prayer says, Lord, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. I could not change my voice. I had to come to the place of accepting it.
Correct.
Yeah. So that's the insecurities that I've dealt with in my early childhood and also in my adult years. Now, marriage. I think I need a water break. You're right ahead.
Be sure to stay tuned to part 2 of this discussion with Nashelly Haywood. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. We hope that you're encouraged and inspired to do what it takes to ensure that you reign on your journey. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Until next time, be blessed.